So having said that, I'm going to start the meeting. The Village of Marrickville-Wolford agenda for a special council meeting at the Marrickville Community Centre, 106 Reed Street at 6 p.m. Tuesday, November 17th, 2020. So I'm calling the meeting to order, and I will ask members, any member of council, if they have a pecuniary interest. And I'm looking to my left and to my right. I'm getting the indication that no one has a pecuniary interest this evening. And I would like to have a motion to approve the agenda for this evening. So I'd like a mover. Thank you, Mr. Foster, and a seconder. Thank you, Mr. Cameron. Be it hereby resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the Village of Marrickville-Wolford does hereby approve the agenda of the special council meeting of November 17th, 2020 as circulated. All in favor? And Mr. Help Me, are you in favor as well? Are you in favor of the agenda as circulated? Yes. Yes? That is carried. Thank you. Next, members, there is a motion to move into the public meeting, so I would need a mover and a seconder for that motion, please. Thank you, Mr. Helpme, and seconded by Mr. Foster. Be it hereby resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the Village of Marrickville-Wolford does hereby move to a public meeting under Sections 51, 20, and 21, and Section 34 of the Planning Act as amended. All in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. Is everybody able to hear me all right? Thank you. Yep, thank you. If you're not, don't be shy to say a bit louder, please, if I happen to drop my voice, because there's a fair bit of reading to do for you as we go get into the public meeting specifically. So I'll go through the public meeting format for you. It is for the consideration of a proposed draft plan of subdivision and zoning bylaw amendment applications. It's the United Counties file 07-T-20202 for lands described as part of lots 1 and 9, block 16, lots 190 to 192, part of lots part of lots 193 to 196, Plan 6, Village of Marrickville-Wolford. And I'm calling this planning special public meeting to order at 6:03 p.m. As required under Sections 5120 and 3412 of the Planning Act, RSO 1990. This public meeting is being held for the purpose of providing the public with information and material related to the proposed draft plan of subdivision and draft zoning bylaw amendment. This is the public's opportunity to provide comments on the proposed development applications prior to the United Counties of Leeds and Grenville making a decision on the draft plan of subdivision and the Village Council making a decision on the proposed zoning bylaw amendment. The proposed residential plan of subdivision consists of 43 lots, 38 to be developed with single detached dwellings, and 5 to be developed with semi-detached dwellings for a total of 48 residential units planned for the site. The lots are to be serviced by municipal water and sewer. The corresponding zoning bylaw amendment is to rezone the 3.54 hectare property from development to residential 2, exception R2-X, to permit the development of the 48 residential units. All provisions of the R2 zone will apply to the R2-EX zone except for lot frontage, which is requested to be reduced from 18 meters to 12 meters. All other provisions of the village's zoning bylaw number 23-08 shall apply. So my other opening comments are, maybe you don't recognize everybody. My name is Doug Struthers, and I am chairing the tonight's public meeting. And council members present are Councillor Foster, Councillor Halpley, and also our, Mr. Cameron is having a moment. Thank you. Apologies. Municipal staff present for this meeting are our CAO, Doug Robertson, our who is also responsible for economic development, Christina Conklin, our deputy clerk, and planner retained by the village, Forbes Simon from JP2G Consultants. And Mr. Simon's there, yes, with the hands up. Thank you, Forbes. This public meeting is intended to provide the public with information and material related to the proposed subdivision and to give the public an opportunity to make presentation to the council regarding their thoughts on both the draft plan of subdivision and proposed zoning bylaw amendment. It is the council's responsibility to consider all the facts and to deliberate on the merits of both applications. At any time during the proceedings, council members may ask questions through the chair to obtain information or seek clarification of statements. Those members of the public who wish to be heard on this matter will be asked to make their statement to the proposed draft plan of subdivision and zoning bylaw amendment. If a member of the public wishes to ask questions or seek clarification, they will ask their questions through the chair, who will direct the question to the appropriate person to respond. And today's proceedings are as follows. Village staff, so I would ask staff to confirm how the notice of the public meeting was provided. And I'll ask Christina to do that, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Notice of the meeting was given through an advertisement in the Kempful Advance, through regular mail to residents within 120 meters of the subject lands, on the municipal website, and through signage placed on the subject lands as well.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And next, the applicant will present their planning justification report, providing an overview of the nature of the application. And any person who has attended this meeting will be provided an opportunity to comment on the proposed development applications. The applicant will be provided an opportunity to respond to comments made or questions asked by the public. Notice of appeal rights. Please be cautioned that the public only have a right of appeal on the proposed zoning bylaw amendment application. Recent changes to the Planning Act under Bill 108 have removed the public's rights to appeal decisions on draft plans of subdivision. Regarding rights of appeal on the proposed zoning bylaw amendment, only those persons who make oral submissions at this public meeting or make written submissions to the Village of Marrickville-Wolford before a decision is made by council will have a right to appeal to the local planning appeal tribunal. Notwithstanding the recent changes to the Planning Act regarding subdivision appeal rights, public comments are important and valued by council and will be given careful consideration by council in terms of its recommendations and actions. So before I go to the applicant and their planning justification, my understanding is, because we don't have an overhead projector this evening, everyone has been provided on their chairs with a copy. It would be from Novatech. I believe that's correct. I'm getting a lot of nods. Thank you. If you don't, please raise your hand. Okay, we're all good. Thank you so much. So at this time, I will ask the applicant to present their planning justification. And with us this evening, we do have Pat McLean, who is the owner of McLean Landing, and you might put your hand up and give a wave. Good evening. And the presenter of the planning justification, in my understanding, is going to be James Ireland. And thank you, James. He's a planner with Novatech Engineering, who is representing the applicant. And I think there may also be another staff member or director at Novatech who is available, if need be, to answer any questions. And his name is Lee Sheets. So having said that, I'll ask Mr. McLean to do your presentation, sir.
That will be James Ireland.
So yes, indeed, James Ireland. Thank you so much.
I'll do the presentation on behalf of that. Your mayor has just introduced me. James Ireland, I'm the planner of Novatech. Hopefully you've had a chance to look at your handout there. That was supposed to be on an open projector, but it still works in your hands. So I'm sure you all know where the site is. It's between County Road 15 and 16 and immediately west of Sophie Lane, which was phase one of the subdivision. This is phase two. Phase one was developed very much with the intention of phase two happening. So the servicing, the stormwater line, etc. have all been designed to accommodate this phase two, which is what we're considering tonight. As you may have said, residential two zones, so city roads and central touch roads are mixed in that zone. Just turn to the next page of the proposed draft plan subdivision. So you can see Sophie Lane extended and the second street there effectively linking with Arm Road 16 and stuff. Just on the next page, so it's 43 residential lots. They're ranging in size from 454 square metres, just over the minimum of 450, but then up to 1142 square metres, the largest one. They will all be connected to urban services, so sanitary sewer, stormwater and water mains. And although the mayor suggested that a mix of singles and semis would be built, you could build a single touch dot on every single lot. That's certainly permitted. But the lots which have a frontage of more than 18 metres, as in the larger lots, you could build a semi touch on those. That's 5 or 6 lots maximum. Green street Sophie Lane will be extended just as they are, so 16 metres along there. And then there's also the provision of connections involved to the Maryfield Road subdivision. The last page of your presentation there is the detail of the zoning amendment that we're seeking. So the zoning will remain residential street. That's something which I'm explaining. We will ask for an exception for 1 week. I think there might be some confusion as to what we need, but typically we need to be otherwise narrow so we reduce some things. Obviously those ones which are reduced to 15 metres frontage, we will not be able to have a 70 metres frontage. That's it.
Well, thank you very much. So I would ask at this time if members of the public wish to address the council to remain in their seats and raise your hand. I will acknowledge each person one at a time, hopefully in the order that hands may go up, and ask that you please state your name, your place of residence, and then make your ask your question or comment. And remember to direct your question to me, and then I'll certainly try to direct that question to the appropriate person, best person to answer the question. So, if anybody has a question, please raise your hand. Sir, I'll ask you to stand, sir, and state your name and where you reside.
I'm Jack Springer. Address is 125 Sophie Lane.
Thank you.
I just have one or two questions for the builder.
Okay.
And a recommendation for council. It appears that there's a disconnect in the wording of a couple of the documents. In the briefing package they put out, it notes that they want to propose to reduce the minimum amendment lot from 18 meters to 15 meters. Yet on the actual wording of the amendment, it says they seek to allow for minimum frontage of 12 meters for single detached buildings. Therefore, I recommend the council that they amend the wording of the amendment to 15 meters from 12, just to be consistent between the documents. The two questions were, first, it notes in here that Sophie Lane Street Road number 1 looks like it goes up and it connects to County Road 16, so that there will be two entrances off of County Road 16 into phases 1 and 2. Is that correct?
That's right.
Okay. Just couldn't, I remember that the second one was not going to be built, but the new one entering onto County Road 16, because that will alleviate a lot of the traffic congestion from that area. And the third question is, many of the new subdivisions in the Ottawa area, for example, have fencing, sound fencing that is put along the edges of those. Is there any intention to put fencing in on these in the new subdivision?
There is not.
Okay. Thank you. And you captured, I think staff and the applicant have captured your comment about the wording on the minimum lot size 15 to 12 or 12 to 15. Thank you. Oh, sorry, here. And again, the sir have asked you to stand, state your name and where you reside.
Yeah, my name is Dan Black, and I reside at 228 Alice Street. Thank you very much for holding this meeting. Really appreciate it. It's nice to see such a good turnout. I have a number of questions, and along with our neighbors on Reed Street, the Telfords, which we, just so everybody knows, we detailed in a 4-page letter to the municipality, which was dropped off to the municipality on Monday morning. I just want to go on record to let everybody know that we've done that. And in that letter, we raise a number of concerns. We're not saying we're opposed to development. We think development is good for Merrickville. But we do make it very clear that there are a number of concerns for us who live downgrade from this proposed development. Alice Street right now is a cul-de-sac. So it's maintained by the residents of Alice Street, just like Wallace Street is. So we pay for our plowing. But the point is that development went in years ago, and it's at a much lower grade than the subdivision that we're currently talking about. Also, Alice Street, Wallace Street, and along Reed Street in particular, people are on well and septic. And we just want some assurances from the developer and from the town that they'll be careful or give us some advance notice for sure prior to any pneumatic hammering occurring, because our wells could in fact be damaged. Now, in working with the Telfords, we've established a baseline in terms of our water quality, so that's ongoing. We will also, once we're hopefully notified by the developer or the town, when construction begins on the excavations, the foundation creation, that we will get some form of notification so that we can actually just do an inspection of our wells. There's no point doing it now because we don't know when the actual hose will be ripping up the ground. But we do want to make sure that once it's about to begin, that we can take the time and have our wells inspected and our septic tanks inspected. We're also very concerned, as detailed in the letter, I won't go into all of it, but we're also very concerned about damage to our foundations. The bedrock there, it's like a limestone underneath, very little ground coverage. And so a lot of the construction that we've experienced over the years has involved either blasting or hydraulic flow hammering that goes on. And so we're very concerned about fissures being opened up in the limestone and somehow contaminants leaking into those fissures and contaminating our wells, which we've had in good order for 16 years at 228 Alice Street. There are a number of other concerns which are in our letter. We thought of it very carefully. Again, I want to emphasize that we're not opposed to development. We think Miracle needs more housing, but we're concerned about the high-density nature of this. That piece of property, as you pointed out, is 3.4. You're proposing, when we got the amendment, it said, we got the message that it was 43 lots. I'm hearing tonight that there's some change to that it's not all single-family dwellings. That's fine. The only thing that we're concerned about is one of our concerns is the high density rate of this. And we do have concerns that it might change the overall character of what Marrickville is. And we're seeing a slow erosion of the green space in Marrickville. We're seeing certain species of animals slowly disappearing. And naturally, we're concerned about that because we moved out to Marrickville years ago because we wanted to be in this rural setting. And I am concerned about what development might bring to the overall character and historical nature of the village. But high above those points, again, is the threat to our water supply, our septic system, and just the environmental impact on something like that. I don't know if Don wants to add to what I'm saying, but I really appreciate the opportunity to talk. And I also just want to say finally that when the letter was submitted on Monday, I realize that's very close to the meeting here. But I do hope that in time, the municipality can look it over very carefully with the developer, and you can address any of the concerns that we've raised there, acknowledge it, and also report back to us with your thoughts on what we're bringing up. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Black, and I'll ask Mr. Telford if he wants to supplement that. But just from a process point of view, and I want to make sure I'm looking to our planner and to staff to make sure this is right. All the comments will be put in a format, and as potential recommendations, for conditions of should council continue to consider the application, and I think that would be at a council meeting on December the 14th, if I have the right number. So, right date rather. So your letter has been captured, will be part of that process. I'm not sure if the applicant wants to make a comment this evening or not, or respond. I see a hand going up, so I'll do that. Is that all right, Mr. Telford? You go through that? Yeah, thank you. And I think it's Mr. Sheets' hand went up?
Yes, it was.
Thank you, sir. Go ahead. You have the floor.
Dan, I take your comments very seriously as it relates to foundation damage or any contamination of wells or changes in the water quality. Responsibility falls on the contractor building the roads and drainage system, as well as the contractors building the housing, and it's their insurance that handles that. They're supposed to do a pre-blast survey. I don't know if they did one in phase one. I don't think phase 1A was actually tendered, so it probably wasn't method to take care of that. We'll certainly burn that up with phase 2. That needs to be done, pre-blast survey of both foundations, well quality, septic, and so on, to ensure that there isn't damage caused by the construction of the road drainage and or house. With respect to drainage, all drainage from the subdivision needs to be contained. It's all designed to be contained within the stormwater management plan. So that will be done as part of the detailed design. In order to submit a draft plan subdivision, we do a serviceability report, which is to show the municipality that the site is serviceable, the details of how it's to be serviced are worked out during the detailed design process, so when we get draft conditions. One of the conditions we have to fulfill is to provide engineering plans in accordance with the ground specs and provincial standards, and they're approved by all agencies. So that's not the step, that's the next step. So we will ensure that and the point taken of the grading on the house.
Thank you.
I think go to now. Actually, state your name and address, sir.
Thanks, sir. Donald Telford, 1317 Reed Street. During phase 1, once blasting started, my water turned black. I was told at the public meeting that I went to before the subdivision had started that we would be informed that before blasting, and there would be all kinds of measures taken to ensure that didn't happen. Because I didn't have my water tested before blasting started, it was then my responsibility, I was told. So where my well was grouted, so where the pipe is grouted to the ground, was fractured. So I had contaminant running into my well. I ended up having to have that fixed. I ended up having to put in the UV system. So I'm a little hesitant to believe that, I would like some reassurance that I am going to be protected in some way. The other side of that, when you talk about drainage, you're looking at probably a 6 to 7 foot drop, specifically on lot 8, which is at the back of my property and at the back of Black's. How do you propose to do that? Are we going to see some sort of retaining wall like there is in phase 1?
That's right.
So you're going to build a retaining wall in my backyard.
Well, I suspect that the retaining wall, if one is built, will be built on the same property.
But basically, my property is then going to abut what is a road allowance now. At the back of my property, I have a road allowance. So I'm assuming that the developer is being given or sold the road allowance to be incorporated into the subdivision. Therefore, so my property will abut the back, so it's going to be basically in my backyard. So what you're saying is I'm going to have a wall.
I didn't say you could have a wall, but potentially you could have a wall. Detailed grading hasn't been completed. Those could be looked at or lockout units, depending on the type of units that the builder proposes.
So in their backyard, then they would have like a 6 to 8 foot drop in their backyard?
Or they leave that transition through the house and have a walkout.
Okay, thanks, Lou.
Good. Thank you. Yep. Sir, at the back row. Yes, please go ahead. I see you state your name and address, sir.
Yeah, my name is Charles Goyen. I live at 119 Sophie Lane. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. My question is more related to once the traffic is, the development begins, and there's a lot of contractors and trucks and so on that start moving in. Can council impose as a primary route to access the, to do the work there? Route through County 16 and Street number 1, as opposed to Sophie Lane where there's a lot of residents and houses. Can council enforce that they use the County Road 16 and Street number 1 to access the area?
At this point, I think I'd turn to the presenters, ask if they have any comment on that.
Well, I'm not a counselor.
No?
Well,
No, you're
the
not.
question was directed to council.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to
But
hear.
if I may offer, it's not unusual for municipalities to impose construction management conditions for the development of phase 2 or 3 of subdivision. So your ask is not unreasonable. I don't know council's position. But I think you're just moving it from one street to another.
Well,
Region
County Road
Street might have a concern with that.
So my comment this evening would be, if you have a suggestion, a comment, we will capture it, and with the advice through the planners and so on, how that recommendation or comment that you wish could be part of the plan, or could be a condition of the implementing of the plan of subdivision.
Yes.
Okay? So we're capturing your comments this evening. We wouldn't give you a direct answer this evening in terms of a yay or nay.
Yeah.
Okay?
Okay.
You're very welcome. Thank you, Mr. Sheets. And name and address, please.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Alice Mills, and I live also at 228 Alice Street. I just wanted to ask you about the water drainage system. Are all these houses going to be hooked up by like a kind of a sump pump system to that, or is it just a passive, things melt and angle towards that?
Some help to a storm sewer system in the street, and the entire storm sewer system drains into the existing stormwater management pond that you see on County Road 16.
Okay.
And from there, during phase 1, we constructed the storm sewer along County Road 16, crossing over County Road 15 along the Ejectable Plain, and covering the existing ditch.
Okay. Because I was saying, I know it's not you guys, but with the previous development when they started before, we experienced flooding and had to redo our whole sump pump and drainage system because of that. And I think part of the problem was there were a lot of basement foundations that were left vacant, over the winter. It's all just rock there, so. But I'm glad to hear that it's actually an active system. Thank you. Oh, does the town maintain that system, or does the developer?
The storm sewer system?
Yeah,
It's within the municipal rollout.
okay, so you, the town.
The drainage.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions or comments for the presenter? Yes, sir. Your name and address, please.
Yeah, Dan Dunlop, 112 Goldwyn Street. I had just one concern in that I'm just a little bit south of the Miracle Grove subdivision that's going in. The initial proposals that we were given was that there was going to be a blend of townhouse, two-story townhouse and one-story bungalows. And the final plan for that development is all two-story townhouses. So that has a huge impact on the traffic patterns and population density and that sort of thing. I just want to ensure that there aren't any hiccups along the way, at which point we might see townhouses instead of homes being built on that property.
So we can't build townhouses, there's lots of many houses along there. They're not allowed. It's only semi-detached, obviously there's two.
Semi-detached is acceptable. It's the two-story variety, row housing basically, as opposed to semis.
I mean, the semis could be two-story.
Yes, that's fine.
Okay. Thank you.
Just one more.
Yes?
One more thing. Always been a concern of mine, and that is our waste treatment facility and capacity. And I just want to ensure that the buildings that are planned, both Miracle Grove and your new development, and that our capacity is what it requires, or will there have to be changes to that capacity?
Correct. Yes, because the applicant has indicated they want to be fully on water and sewer. Yeah. Thank you.
So is our system now in place? Does it have the capacity to handle the additional?
As we go through the process, in terms of the approval process, we would not approve if we did not have the capacity.
Okay. Thanks, Doug.
Any other questions? I just do remind, I think I do have this accurately. Oh, sorry, my apologies. Thank you, Mr. Moore. Yeah.
Mike Zapperstock, I live at 330 Wellington Street, East. My comment is that I am in support of this residential subdivision. I'm very glad to see more housing in Miracle. We need more homes, and we need more residents to keep our schools, and keep our post office, and keep our businesses alive. My question is do we have a tentative date when the subdivision would start? And secondly, what steps are required from now?
I'm not sure if the applicant can give a date, given that the council, the municipality still have to go through the approval process. So, for example, there was a report coming for council's consideration on December the 14th. That doesn't mean that it would be necessarily, we have all the agreements in place that we want in terms of conditions. So that could take a while, but notwithstanding that, whenever that is, it then goes to the United Counties of Leeds and Grenville for their consideration, if you will, and they may have additional conditions for the plan of subdivision. So I wouldn't want to guess what that timeline might be, but from perhaps the applicant might comment, whenever that final date is, the final approval and it's registered. My sense is that the applicant will be, quote unquote, shovel ready. So, that doesn't answer your question directly when it would be. But does the applicant want to comment on that? Thank you, Mr. Sheets.
Yes, I mentioned briefly the steps involved in a subdivision plan, what we call registered, and that's having lots that are being sold. So there's a number of steps that still have to be completed. Step one is getting draft approval, and that was a condition from the county and the municipality, a shopping list of things that we need to do. From the time that we receive draft approval, we'll be very aggressive to get that shopping list complete. And have shovels and
Go ahead.
Once you've actually started construction, do you have any idea how long it would take to build 47 units? 46 units, sorry.
I'm not sure the developers are prepared to do all in one day, but I'm not sure that will be given that into consideration.
No, they really haven't looked at that yet.
My question has to do with construction vehicles and, that kind of thing on the roads while we're building.
Yeah.
So it takes 4 years to do that, that's going to affect a lot of people.
Absolutely. I'd love to have that crystal ball, but I can't answer those questions.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? So, not seeing any hands go up. Were there any questions to the applicant from any members of council? Mr. Cameron.
Yeah, in the proposal, it says 43 residential lots. How many doors do you expect to build in that subdivision? I know there's 43 lots, but how many actual homes will be built?
Well, I propose. So I can tell you the maximum. I guess the minimum is 43, but then the maximum is 6 of those 43 lots could be developed in the center. Not saying it will be, but it could be. So, what's that? 49?
So between 43 and 49. And there was a few concerns raised by some citizens for protecting their wells and so on and so forth. And I'm sure as we go through the process, that will be discussed at the table. And I was hoping that when you have prepared your subdivision plan, it would be nice to see the style of homes that you're developing, as far as the bricks and tin roofs, so on and so forth. Something more conducive with the rest of the village. It would be nice to see. Thank you.
Good, thank you. Mr. Malloy.
Yeah, just going through your presentation from that went to the county, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. Anyway, you talk about environmental impact study by Bowden Environmental Consultants, and it says here that the application identifies several potential species at risk for general area, and appropriate species surveys were completed. These documented the presence of a Category 3 habitat for the eastern whippoorwill in the southern edge of the subject lands. Can somebody explain to me what a Category 3 is? And what are you doing to mitigate any potential damage to that area?
Councillor, unfortunately, I'm not an expert.
Excuse me, okay, thank you. Thanks, Mike.
Sorry?
No, it was Mike. Mike was... No, your head was forward. I couldn't hear him.
Unfortunately, I'm not an expert. We engaged Michelle Rochefort, right back and forth. I believe the whippoorwill habitat is across the street, some 380 meters south of County Road 16. And the Category 3 habitat has to do with, as I understand it, the setback from the calls that they heard.
Setback from what, sorry?
The calls they heard. So they do not surveys and whippoorwill surveys at night. So they listen to the calls of the whippoorwill. They're quite, they roam 500-600 meters at night. And the calls were heard, and then they track where they hear the calls, and they describe it. It's very subjective as to where that line is, because they're listening, trying to
identify through sound.
So, if you have a specific question, we can get Michelle Rochefort to answer that question, but that's the best I have.
I'm certain, but did I hear you correctly? In fact, the area that they're speaking of is on the other side of 16 then?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
So if there aren't any other questions, there's a bit of a process to go through, so please bear with me. This public meeting is now concluded. Following the public meeting, the Council will reconvene its regular session of the meeting. The meeting is open to the public, and people who have participated in the public meeting are welcome to remain and observe the Council proceedings. However, the council meeting is not open for comments or questions from the public, and we request that people in attendance refrain from making comments or taking actions that could interrupt or interfere with the balance of the council meeting. And as you can see from the agenda, it's pretty straightforward. It's a special meeting this evening. No other council business taking place. Council may decide to defer consideration of the applications to allow for further information and clarification. The council may also decide to recommend approval of the applications with or without specific terms and conditions. The council may also decide to recommend that the applications be refused, stating the reasons why such action should be taken. Highly unlikely to happen tonight, but that's part of the process under the Planning Act to say that. Following the public meeting, Council will be responsible for making a recommendation to the United Counties of Leeds and Grenville, the approval authority for plans of subdivision, including any conditions Council deems appropriate for the draft plan of subdivision. This will be done at a future Council meeting upon receipt of a final report from our consultant planner. Council will also be responsible for considering the approval of the proposed zoning bylaw amendment intended to implement the subdivision. And I now would require a motion to adjourn the public meeting. So I've got a mover and a seconder for that, please. Thank you, Mr. Foster, and a seconder would be, thank you, Mr. Malloy. Be it hereby resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the Village of Miracle-Wolford does hereby return to the regular session of the special council meeting. All in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. Thank you.
Just a reminder that you want to let people know that at the second meeting we'll be voting on that resolution.
Yes. So just so members of the public know, there will be a motion at the end of the second meeting we're having this evening to accommodate, obviously, not just you, but also for being mindful of COVID guidelines of separation and so on. And the motion that council will consider at the end of that, the next meeting, it reads as such: the Council of the Corporation of the Village of Miracle-Wolford does hereby direct JP2G Consultants to bring forward a report to Council on the December 14th, 2020 meeting with recommendations regarding how best to proceed with a consideration of the McLean Landing Phase 2 subdivision and zoning bylaw amendment applications, as well as an assessment of public comments and written submissions received. So it's not just your comments this evening, it's those that are sent in writing and may be sent in writing between now and that December the 14th council meeting.
Correct, Your Worship. I believe the plan, Forbes Simon indicated that if anything he receives by December 9th, he will definitely be able to factor it into his, consider it in his recommendations to council for that report.
That's great. Thank you, Mr. Robertson. Okay, so that's just an information item for folks. So we're now back in regular session. And I do have a motion. You have a question, Mr. Cameron?
Yes. Will we, as council, be receiving a copy of that statement you just read?
A copy of?
Of the statement that you just read?
Yes. The motion, yes, it's going to be dealt with at our at the end of the next council meeting.
Will we receive a copy?
Well, I'll read it out loud. Staff may be able to provide a copy to you. Okay, you can look at it between now and then. It'll be exactly as I read out loud.
Yeah, we weren't supplied a copy at the table, so
that's correct. That's correct. Yep. Thank you. Now I have a confirmatory motion, please, for the proceedings, and a mover and a seconder for that. Thank you, Mr. Foster, and a seconder would be Mr. Helpy. Thank you, sir. Be it hereby resolved that bylaw 60-2020, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the special council meeting of November the 17th, 2020, be read a first and second time, and that bylaw 60-2020 be read a third and final time and passed. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. And this is our motion to adjourn and a mover and a seconder for that, please. Thank you, Mr. Helpme. Yes? And the seconder would be Mr. Malloy. Be it hereby resolved that this special meeting of the Council of the Corporation of the Village of Mayor Wolford does now adjourn at 6:45 p.m. until the next special meeting of council on Tuesday, November the 17th, 2020 at 7:30 p.m. All in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. And I would ask members of the public to leave in an orderly fashion. Try to stay a little bit distance. You all have masks on, so